Welcome and thank you for joining us. This is Understanding Meltdowns, a sensory approach to self-regulation in challenging times. My name is Heidi Richards. I'm one of the occupational therapists serving students here in the Mercer Island School District. For the last several years, my focus has been on working with early childhood and elementary students. However, I've also worked at the middle and high school levels.
And my name is Jen Anderson. I'm also an occupational therapist for Mercer Island School District. Currently, I support students at our elementary schools, but I also have additional experience working with kids ranging in age between 3 and 21 as both an OT and also a behavior therapist. As Heidi mentioned, this presentation is all about understanding meltdowns and self-regulation from a sensory perspective. Our hope is that through sharing this information, you'll be able to learn how the sensory systems impact meltdowns and our ability to feel calm, what sensory-based dysregulation can look like in both kids and adults, what we can do in the moment, and also how to promote a sense of calm on an ongoing basis.
For those of you who may not know, occupational therapy is a holistic healthcare profession that works in a variety of settings across the lifespan. In the school setting, OT is a support service provided to students who qualify for special education with specific fine motor or sensory processing deficits. Our role is to help students to access and participate in their education as successfully and independently as possible.
We do this by helping students learn the regulation tools that they need in order to feel calm, focused, and engaged throughout the school day. That way, they can learn new things and participate to the best of their abilities academically and also socially.
Oftentimes, and especially right now during the school closures, our work also involves supporting the families of our students in their efforts to help their children grow. So with that, we thank you for being here, for taking the time out of your day to learn more about what you can do to support yourself and your family right now and always.
So, what is going on in our world, in our homes, and in our bodies right now? Obviously, what we're experiencing is completely uncharted territory, and every day we're having to manage unsettling news, new routines, and multiple roles without knowing what the next day will bring. The stress from these changes can make it really hard to calm both our bodies and our minds, and many of us are finding it really difficult to regulate our emotions, our behaviors, and our reactions to everything that's going on around us right now. Fortunately, there are simple tools and strategies that we can use to alleviate the overwhelm and the meltdowns that are happening right now. We're excited to share some of these tips with you today, but first, we want to help you understand how our sensory systems and environment influence our ability to feel calm.
So sensory processing is a complex process that is happening all the time in our bodies. To put it simply, it's essentially the way that our bodies take in, filter, and use information from our environments in order to form an appropriate response. I think of it like a busy freeway interchange with lots of roads leading into a hub. The roads are your various sensory systems, and the hub is your brain. When everything's working smoothly, cars are moving along, radios are blaring, we're singing, we're taking the right exits and getting where we need to go. But when rush hour happens, the roads get crowded, backups and accidents happen, and tempers flare. Sometimes we miss the exit and it takes longer to reach our destinations. As occupational therapists, we often approach the ability to self-regulate through a sensory lens. We consider the environment, the demands of the moment, and how particular individuals might respond to certain sensory information. So let's look at our sensory systems and see how they might be impacting your well-being right now. First is the visual system. It's our sense of sight. Are you and your kids looking at screens for most of the day? The auditory system is next. It's our sense of hearing. What is the noise level like in your house? The tactile system, our sense of touch. Are you missing hugs from friends and family? Or are your kids climbing all over you all day long? The next one is the oral sensory system, our sense of taste. Are you missing your favorite meal or some favorite foods right now?
The next one is our olfactory system, and this is our sense of smell. So something to think about is whether the chemical sense from all the cleaning products you're using to disinfect impacts yourself or someone in your family. The next one is our vestibular system, which is our sense of balance and spatial orientation. And this involves putting our bodies in positions other than just standing or sitting upright. So some ways that we get vestibular input are by riding bikes, practicing yoga, and even something as simple as having a dance party in our kitchens. The next one is our proprioceptive system, and this is our sense of body movement using our muscles and our joints. So what is your current activity level? Is your family more or less active than usual right now? The last one is our interoceptive system, and this one is not as commonly known as the others, but it's super important because it's our ability to sense our body's internal physical condition. So think of things like hunger, thirst, body temperature, and even recognizing if we have to use the bathroom. What might this look like at home? Think about if your eating habits have changed or your appetite. Is your child wetting the bed more frequently than usual? And is your sleep schedule drastically different than it usually is? These are all things that many of us may not realize impact our ability to self-regulate. Ideally, we want to find the right balance of sensory input for ourselves so that we can avoid that traffic jam that Heidi mentioned earlier and instead feel calm, steady, and focused. When we're dysregulated, it's really difficult to function effectively and learn new things.
So what can sensory dysregulation look like? First, it's important to understand that sensory dysregulation is a human condition, meaning that all of us, children and adults, can experience the following behaviors, emotions, and reactions: meltdowns, crying, defiance, inability to focus, impulsive behaviors, anger, frustration, irritability. These are all behaviors that can be related to sensory situations.
It helps to think of dysregulated emotions and all behaviors as communication. A child who is feeling intense emotions or demonstrating any of these challenging behaviors is telling us that they do not have the regulation skills needed to meet whatever expectations are being placed on them. So while it appears like they're misbehaving, in many cases, they may actually be lacking the ability to self-regulate. And Heidi and I will briefly explain some steps that you can take to support your child with self-regulating in the moment.
So a meltdown is happening. You know what this looks like. It can include screaming, crying, kicking, throwing, fighting. What can you do now, right now, to help? Self-regulation skills vary from person to person. Some people can more easily self-regulate than others simply because of how they're wired. And we all have coping techniques, things that we do to naturally calm or regulate ourselves when we're feeling out of balance or anxious. For example, some people play with something in their hand. Some people run or take a walk, build with Legos or draw. Others garden, cook, or bake. The good news is self-regulation skills can be learned, and like anything, they improve with practice. So what can we do in the moment? And what can we do on an ongoing basis to better prepare us for challenging times?
So in the moment, when you or a family member is dysregulated and having a meltdown, there are some simple things that you can do. And the first is to stop talking. Now is not the time to give verbal directions, to negotiate, or to explain why having a tantrum doesn't work for you right now, even though you might really want to. Each time a verbal direction is given, the body has to process that information. So when our sensory systems are already heightened, adding more information isn't helpful.
Consider the space. Typically a smaller, quieter space helps us to calm. Sometimes this isn't possible, but keep it in mind if it is.
The next thing that you can do is wait. The nervous system takes time to become dysregulated, which means that it also takes time to return to a calm state. The amount of time is different for each person and for each dysregulated episode.
The fourth thing is limit environmental input. If possible, turn off or dim the lights, reduce ambient noise, clear away distracting materials or clutter from the room.
And lastly, you can offer nonverbal calming options. These options will be different for each person depending on their age, their interests, and needs. But a few activities that are known to calm people who are dysregulated include listening to calm music, deep breathing, reading books, playing quietly with things like Play-Doh, puzzles, sand, or Legos, swinging outside, jumping on a trampoline, or taking a walk. You can offer these options through a picture board of choices or by simply setting the materials out in the room and seeing what the child gravitates toward.
But how can we promote an ongoing sense of calm so that both you and your child are able to feel successful, peaceful, and happy more of the time? The good news is there's a lot we can do. This slide shows some of the many ways we can bring regulation opportunities and calm into our everyday. Blow bubbles, practice mindfulness or yoga, go outside, listen to music, play with Play-Doh. There's lots of ways. The idea is to identify the things that make you and your family happy and calm, and to do those things on a regular and ongoing basis. In order to be proactive and consistent about it, though, many families find that a daily schedule is a helpful tool.
So this is a sample schedule that we created. And of course, your daily schedule is going to look different from this. It'll look different for every family. But the important takeaway here is that your schedule includes frequent sensory-based activities. So in this example, you can see that active and louder activities have been alternated with quieter, calmer activities. This is a model that many of our classrooms use throughout the school day as well, which is done intentionally because it gives everyone's bodies regular and frequent opportunities to regulate. Some people may require more movement time and others may need more alone or quiet time, but this general idea of alternating active with calming activities is a great place to start. And so our hope is that throughout this presentation, you are able to take away some new knowledge and a few practical tips that will help to reduce the overwhelm and create a calm space for yourself and your family.
So thanks again for showing up today, for wanting to know more, and for all you're doing for your families. We appreciate it, and we know they do too.